reason why someone would rent a car?
I don't see why not, sure.
Could that be a reason why someone would repeatedly rent cars for years, switch them up, so people couldn't track him down and kill him?
Objection.
Could that be a reason?
Assume and fake my answer.
Overruled.
Could that be a reason?
Sure.
Or speculation.
How about an individual whose friends had just been gunned down 3 days prior? Could you envision a situation where that individual would want to rent a car so no one knows what he's driving?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
You made him
Yes.
speculate.
Okay, and tinted windows. You said tinted windows can be used to commit crimes because you can't see in as well. Could conceal an identity.
That's correct. That's what I said, yes.
By that same logic, couldn't tinted windows keep people who are trying to kill you off of your scent, off of knowing what you're driving?
Yes.
Especially 3 days after they have murdered 2 of your friends in cold blood?
Sure.
Could that be another reason why someone would rent a car?
Yes.
Could that be a reason why someone would rent a car and break a rental agreement and put tint on those windows?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. This warrant that you took out, sir, for the rest of Mr. Stillwell, you charged him with murder, the murder of Shymel Drinks, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you specifically charged him with the shooting of Shymel Drinks, correct?
I'd have to look at the wording, but I think he used the word partaking.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Impeach, impeach, impeach.
We're looking at a copy of the warrant that you took out, assist you in remembering the wording.
Sure.
Grab the wrong one. Got it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And just refresh your recollection, and if, after your recollection is refreshed, if you could look up.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, and in fairness, you did say participate
Yes.
in the warrant, but you said by shooting Shymel Drinks,
That's correct.
okay, on 3/14/2022.
That's correct.
Okay, so specifically, your allegation in that warrant is that Mr. Stillwell was the shooter of Shymel Drinks, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we've talked about some of the evidence that you think you have on this case. Let's just call it what it is. I know that we've been referring to the man in the pink hat, okay, or the man with the slime or die shirt. You have BP video from the corner of Windsor and Fulton Street, correct?
Yes.
Clear video.
Yes, very good, yeah.
And it shows my client wearing a Pink Floyd hoodie and a pink hat. And it shows Mr. Guamarvius Nichols, correct?
Yes.
And it shows Mr. Miles Farley, correct?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And you had that video, and then you also have these rental records of renting the car on that day. Now, let me ask you this. Is there any indication at all, if we're talking about planning something, is there any indication at all that anyone would have known that Shymel Drinks was going to show up at the gas station at that time?
No. Not that I
Okay.
know of.
Okay, do you know where Shymel Drinks was coming from?
No.
Okay. And then you have video from the FedEx, correct?
I do.
Okay, and that shows Windsor Street.
Yes.
And you maintain that that video shows that my client in his white Audi pulled up next to Shymel Drink's car.
Yes.
And you maintain that that video shows that my client shot Shymel Drinks.
Participated, yes.
Okay. I mean, your theory is that my client was driving,
Yes.
okay? And your theory is that the shot was fired out of the driver's side of the car.
Oh, the Audi, yes.
Yeah. Your theory is that Shannon Stillwell was in that white Audi and shot Shymel Drinks at that stoplight.
Yes.
And your contention is that video, that FedEx video, will back that up, ultimately.
That's my conclusion from my investigation, yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's go back to where this investigation started. Evening of 3/14/22.
Okay.
Okay? And you see this red car with this gentleman inside who's sadly deceased, correct?
Yes.
And you arrived before the body was removed, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Now, this is your crime scene. I know that you weren't the first one there, were you?
No.
Okay, but this is your crime scene.
Yes.
So you're in charge of knowing the status of the crime scene and where everything was at the time it was first discovered.
Ultimately, yes, I am.
Okay. So, let me ask you. The Nissan Versa, the red Nissan Versa, before anyone came to the assistance, before Mr. Cheeseborough showed up, was that car still on?
When I was there, I don't remember it being running, no.
No, I'm asking, since it's your crime scene, when the first people showed up, to your understanding, it's your investigation.
I wasn't,
Speculation calls for hearsay.
Is he the lead detective?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, overruled on the speculation, and would your report contain all of that?
it doesn't, if the car was on or not. I know the lights were on. As far as the car was running, the door was open when I got there.
That's the next thing I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not
Sounds
certain.
like he didn't know.
So you're not certain, okay, so the car was running. Or is
Obviously-
that what you're not certain of?
Obviously, it was running when he pulled into the stoplight. When I got there, I don't recall if it was running. I know the lights were on, the door was open. I don't recall if the car was still running or not.
When you got there, the
When I
lights
got
of the
there,
car were on and the door was open?
The lights were on.
Right, the lights of the car were on and the door is open. And when we say the door, we're talking about the driver's side.
That's correct.
Front door. Okay. Now, my question is, before you got there, before anyone got there, was that door open? That front driver's side door to the Versa?
It's my understanding it stayed closed until the paramedics or EMTs opened the door to check on the victim.
Okay. How about Mr. Drinks's feet? Were they on the brake?
I believe they were, yes.
How about the gas? Was one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas?
I don't recall that.
You don't know, or are you saying, no, that's not true?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. And when one of your first tasks was to determine the identity of this gentleman, correct?
It's one of the first things, yes.
Okay, and you weren't the only one there. There were other officers there, correct?
Yes.
And among those officers was representative from the gang unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay, Investigator Flores?
May have been, I don't recall.
Okay. Either way, even with the assistance of the gang unit on scene and all APD resources, no one recognized this gentleman, Mr. Drinks.
He was not officially identified until we did the fingerprint scan.
Right. And that was about 1:06 a.m. that next morning, correct?
It was while we were on scene. I don't know exactly what time it was.
Okay, fair enough. Miss Hilton, if you could do me a favor, please, could you publish, I'm sorry, Mr. Abadi said he was going to help me. You're going to help me with something else. Thank you. 107 Victor Victor. Thank you, Miss Knight. Cell phone, do you see that cell
Queasy
phone in Exhibit
Sorry, should've
107
warned.
Victor Victor?
Is it that one in the pocket there? Is that what that is? Yes, I see it. Oh, it's on his arm. I do, yes. Plugged in.
Do you see that cell phone?
I do, yes.
Okay. As an investigator of homicides, do you often collect cellular phones?
Yes,
And that's from victims and suspects, correct?
yes,
Okay, and reality is, cell phones, if you're able to get into the cell phones and have authorization to get into cell phones, they have a wealth of information, correct?
sometimes they do, yes.
He didn't
They can
take the
have
phone.
call logs, they can have contacts, correct?
Yes,
They can potentially have tracking information, who you're in contact with, places you've been.
yes,
You can learn a lot about a person from a cell phone, correct?
yes, you can.
You can learn who their friends are.
Yes,
You can learn who their enemies are, potentially.
potentially, yes.
Okay. In this case, as a lead investigator, you are aware that actually 2 cell phones belonging to my client have been seized in this case, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And their contents have been extracted, correct?
Yes,
Okay. Now, Mr. Drinks, as lead investigator, did you ask the crime scene tech or crime scene tech Davis or any other individuals to seize or to collect Mr. Drinks' cell phone?
yes,
Okay. And were you ever able to analyze the contents of Mr. Drinks' cell phone?
I don't recall that, no.
Okay, you don't recall ever seeing the contents?
No,
Okay, so as far as you recall, we don't know who is in Mr. Drinks' contacts?
no,
We don't know what he's been texting about leading up to this incident?
no, I'm not aware of it.
Okay. We don't know of anyone that he's had disagreements with or squabbles with or anything like that from his cell phone?
I'm not aware of any of that, no.
Okay, and you're not aware because not saying that none of that exists in his cell phone, but you just haven't seen the contents of his cell phone?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. I want to talk to you about these videos, if that's okay.
Sure.
And Mr. Abate, I'm going to ask you to just be on standby in case I need to publish anything. Thank you. Detective, we have the BP video,
That's correct.
several different camera angles,
That's correct.
okay? Including outside at the pumps, inside the store from different angles.
That's correct.
Okay, we have the King's Liquor video,
Yes,
the surveillance video, and then we have the FedEx video.
that's correct.
Okay, let's talk about the BP video first, and I'm not going to replay all the videos. You see my client, Shannon Stillwell, in the pink hoodie and pink hat, arrive in the white Audi, correct?
Yes,
In the white Audi that was rented in his name,
that's correct.
in the white Audi that he told Investigator Viverito on March 16th, yeah, that's the Audi I'm driving, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And it did have tinted windows, didn't it?
Yes,
All right. You see him arrive at the store, and then you see Mr. Kumarvius Nichols arrive in a Ford Fusion shortly thereafter, correct?
yes, sir.
Mr. Nichols pumps gas.
Yes,
Okay. Mr. Farley is an occupant of Mr. Nichols' car, correct?
that's correct.
Okay, they all enter the store. They're on video.
Yes,
Okay. Mr. Farley's wearing a slime or die shirt.
that's correct.
Okay. Do you know anything about Mr. Farley's background or history?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know that he's a clothing designer?
No idea.
That he creates those shirts, those slime shirts, and sells them to the public?
Okay,
Okay. You were not aware of that before today?
no, sir.
Okay. So you see those three individuals go in and out of the store. First, you see Mr. Nichols go up to the register with Mr. Stillwell, correct?
That's correct.
All right. And in these videos, in all these videos, you don't see anyone with a handgun or anything like that.
No, sir.
You don't see anyone that seems to be irate or upset, do you?
No,
Well, maybe some people in the store, but not these three individuals.
that's correct, yes.
All right. You see Mr. Nichols make a purchase and buy some gum for Mr. Stillwell, correct?
Yeah, he bought something for him. I couldn't tell what it was.
Okay.
But yeah, he did. buy
And this is the first time Mr. Nichols was in the store, before he pumped his gas, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And you see Mr. Nichols joking around with the clerk, acting like he's pulling out all these bills.
Right.
And then you see Mr. Farley come in.
Yes.
And you see Mr. Stillwell turn around on Mr. Farley and act like a monster and kind of scare Mr. Farley, and Mr. Farley does this weird pirouette.
Right. Yes.
They're playing around.
That's correct.
Okay. Everyone seems, from the video, no one seems upset.
No.
Okay. Later on, you see Mr. Nichols come back in the store to make another purchase, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what he purchases?
No.
Okay. Ms. Hilton, I'm going to ask if you could play the video of where Mr. Nichols comes into the store for the second time and makes a purchase.
They didn't ask anything. They didn't talk to the clerk, according to Flores. Oh, man.
If you could play that, please. Are you able to
Roll.
see what he is purchasing?
Wrap or a lotto ticket? I think it's a wrap. It was a thicker package. I don't know for sure, though.
It looked to me to be like some Black and Milds, maybe.
Okay.
That's a
In the
guess. I
car.
don't know.
Okay, appreciate that answer, and I know that it's noted that it's just a guess.
Make him feel stupid.
And you can stop myself. Thank you. Your Honor, may I approach with DS 56?
You may.
Sir, I'm approaching you with what's been marked as DS 56. Do you recognize that image?
Yeah, it's the image from the series of video we just watched.
Okay. That's a still image from the video we just watched?
It appears to be so, yes.
Okay. And is that a fair and accurate representation of the video we just watched? An image from the video we just watched?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit DS 56 into evidence.
Look at love.
It's admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may.
Could those be backwoods
There you go, guys.
blunts?
Yes.
Okay, and do you know what backwoods are?
So like a little cigar, isn't it? Something like that.
Okay, is it also something from your experience that can be gutted and used to roll a marijuana blunt?
Yes.
Okay, how long, to your knowledge, if you know, have you ever seen anyone, we'll just say on video, through police, through detective work, have you ever seen anyone roll a marijuana blunt?
I'm aware of how it's done. I've never witnessed it.
Okay, it takes some time, correct?
I would
Depending on
assume.
how experienced you are?
Yeah, I would assume it would, yes.
Okay, and is this purchase made right before Mr. Nichols returns to his car?
Yes.
When he's sitting there for like 4 minutes as idle, as Miss Hilton said?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, yes or no, whether what was going on in that car with Mr. Nichols was Mr. Nichols was sitting there using those backwoods to roll himself a marijuana blunt? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in the entire BP video, we see Shymel drinks show up, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and again, no indication that anyone was expecting him to show up.
No.
Okay. While Shymel drinks was present at the BP, he walks into the store, correct?
He does.
How many times does he walk in the store? Once or twice?
Just once.
Okay, and he makes a purchase,
Correct.
and there's apparently some other man on the video that's trying to steal some condoms or something, and the clerk is having a problem with him, correct?
Yeah, there's a little
Jackie,
kerfuffle.
speculation is it wasn't like he was trying to steal.
I mean,
Okay.
sustained.
Do you see a man getting into it with the clerk and then suddenly pulling condoms out of his pocket and throwing them back at the cashier?
I remember that interaction. I don't know his condoms, but yeah.
Okay. And then Mr. Drinks has some interaction with that individual and they leave together at the store?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who that person is? The person that Mr. Drinks was interacting with?
Do not.
Okay. Have you ever interviewed the clerk about what was going on in the store?
No.
Do you know who the clerk was?
No.
Okay. Throughout the entire time that Mr. Drinks is on the video, and quite frankly, Mr. Stillwell is on the video at the BP, Mr. Farley, or Mr. Nichols, do you see any interaction between Mr. Drinks and any of those three individuals?
No.
Do you see any hostility between Mr. Drinks and those three individuals?
No.
Okay, Mr. Drinks was having some hostility with the clerk, right?
He was observing that, but yes.
Okay. But not with these individuals. You don't see any mean looks or anything, do you?
No.
Okay. So then we go to the King liquor store video.
Gotcha.
Okay? And just to be clear, do you know how we have timestamps on some of these videos and no timestamps on other videos, right?
Yes.
Okay. The videos that have timestamps, and I understand that King Liquor and the BP are under the same management, right? You don't know?
Not privy. It makes sense, but
Okay.
I'm not privy to that.
All right, but do you have any reason to believe that the BP video, the timestamps would match perfectly with the timestamps, or they're perfectly synced up with the FedEx video, for instance?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, and do you have any reason to believe that any of these videos would be perfectly synced up with phone records or anything like that? Like records held by Sprint or another phone company?
No.
In your experience as an investigator, businesses that have these surveillance systems, their times, you know, you can get an hour of footage, but the time on that footage can be off. correct?
It can be, yes. If not set correctly, yes.
Okay. All right. In the BP video, besides the Ford Fusion, the Nissan Versa, and the Audi, did you note any other vehicles of interest that piqued your curiosity in the BP video?
No.
Okay. How about in the King's
Didn't even try to
Liquor
look.
video, when you see three
Wow.
cars driving up Windsor Street? Did you see any other cars that piqued your curiosity?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about the FedEx video. We do see the red Versa go up to the left lane, correct?
Yes, we do.
And we do see what appears to be the white Audi, and especially when you link it up with the BP video, end up in the center lane, correct?
That's correct.
And then we do see the white Ford Fusion end up in the right lane.
Yes.
And we do see the white Audi run a red light, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you know anything about the history of the attempts on Mr. Stillwell's life?
I do not.
The Woody
Okay.
question.
You don't know that in 2015, a car gunned up behind him or sped up behind the car that he was in and riddled the back of that car with bullet holes?
Objection, he said he doesn't know about any attempts still.
Sustained.
Have you ever heard the name T.R. Jones?
No.
Okay. Anyways, you see Mr. Stillwell run that red light in the white Audi.
I do, yes.
And then you see Mr. Nichols in the Ford Fusion run the same red light.
Yes.
Okay, cool. In that video, we see well, I'll get there in a second. Let's talk about LPRs. Detective Bender helped you with the LPRs in this case, correct?
She did, yes.
And you consider this an important part of police work because you're able to track the movements of specific cars.
Yes.
And you, at that time, felt that the white Audi was a suspect car, correct?
I did.
And you wanted to track its movements.
Yes.
And you thought the white Ford Fusion was a suspect car,
I did.
and you wanted to track its movements.
I did.
And Detective Bender was able to get you all that information about the movements of those cars, or I shouldn't say the movements, but different places in time and different times where the LPRs picked up those license plates throughout those 2 days that you ran them. Believe it was 2 days.
Yes. Whatever she found, she was able to identify the tag numbers and the cars and where they were, yes.
Okay. As lead investigator, besides the Versa, besides the Audi, and besides the Fusion, did you ask Detective Bender to run LPRs on any other specific cars that you may or may not have seen in any of those videos?
I couldn't ask her to run something I didn't see, and there was no other cars. No.
No other cars that piqued your interest?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. You were able to obtain the rental agreement for this Audi, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware that Mr. Stillwell rented this car on 3/14 at approximately 3 in the afternoon?
Well, let me check. Yes. That's correct.
And you are aware that he gave all of his personal information, his license, his signature, his phone number, his address. He appeared on surveillance at the Alamo. He did all those things while renting that car.
Yes.
And you're aware that in the early morning of March 16th, which would be 2 days after this incident, Investigator Viverito and Investigator Flores spoke to him in the back of a police car after the house he was in was shot up, correct?
Yes.
And they took pictures, right?
Yes.
And you're aware that he told Investigator Viverito, yes, that's the car I'm driving.
He did.
And you're also aware from the Alamo records that later on March 16th, 2022, he actually called Alamo to extend his rental on that car until March 20th, correct?
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. Could you look at your investigative summary, if you would? And I'm going to refer you to page 19.
Okay.
Okay, does page 19, it's page 19 of
Oh, yes.
25.
Yeah, at the very top you're talking about?
I'm about 2/3 of the way down. Do you see a notation, 16 March 2022, 1337? Shannon wants to extend the rental or the rent,
Yes, I do see that.
okay? And then at 1337, they talk about a rate and then Shannon agrees.
That's correct.
Okay, so under your theory, my client appeared on video at the BP with this rental, is on video shooting man out of the driver's side of this rental, and then 2 days later is telling Investigator Viverito, that's my car, right?
Yes.
And then also later on March 16th, seeks not to get rid of this car, but to extend the rental.
It appears so, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, let's talk about gunshot residue. Gunshot, you testified earlier in this case, and we talked a little bit about gunshot residue, right?
Yeah, we did.
And you said you got to be careful about gunshot residue because of the false positives.
Right, yeah, you could be
Okay.
anywhere in the room. If a gunshot goes off, we all in here would have gunshot residue
And
on
there
us.
was none in the car.
Right. We're talking about microscopic particles
That's correct.
that are expelled out of a vehicle, out of a firearm when a firearm is shot.
That's right.
Okay. And these particles are expelled in a way that you just said, if someone shot a gun in here, we could all have gunshot residue on us.
That's correct.
Okay, and that would be unfair if I shot a gun to say, well, you have gunshot residue on you, because that would be a false positive on you.
That's correct.
Okay, but gunshot residue does detect if a gunshot was fired in the area, correct?
Yes, it's evidence of that a gunshot was in the area.
Listen to him.
Right.
All right, especially in fabrics and cloth and things of that nature, correct?
I'm not that would make sense to me, but I'm not an expert on it, but yes.
Okay. Well, those type of materials would not be subject to something like hands where you could sweat the gunshot residue off, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And in this case, that FedEx video that you viewed, we see traffic lights, right?
Yes,
We can see brake lights, correct?
Yes,
We can see headlights, correct?
yes,
What we don't see is a muzzle flash, do we?
no,
Okay. Now, you testified about shell casings,
yep,
and you said you looked all over for shell casings on the scene.
we did, yes,
And shell casings are the cartridges that are expelled when a gun is fired.
that's correct.
Okay, and there were at least 2 or 3 shots fired just from looking at Mr. Drinks' the red Versa, correct?
At least, yes,
Okay, so you were looking for 2 or 3 or possibly more shell casings on the road, correct?
yes,
Okay, and you didn't find any.
none,
And your conclusion was, of course, maybe you missed them, that's always a possibility, but the other possibility, as you stated in direct, is the gun wasn't, the person who's shooting the gun didn't put the gun outside of the car where you would see the muzzle flash. The gun was actually inside the car when it was fired, correct?
yes,
Okay, and certainly if the gun is inside the car, that would cause gunshot residue to be spread throughout the car,
you assume so, yes, sir.
including the headliner, correct?
Yes,
Okay. You decided to collect the headliner.
say again?
Well, let me ask you that because I don't know that for certain. You worked along with CS crime scene technician Antoinette Green to process this car, correct? The car being the Audi. Mr. Stillwell was arrested
Yes.
on March
and I'm
17th.
trying to recall, because it's not in my report. I knew you were gonna, but I don't. Do you have anything to refresh my memory? Do you have a crime scene report with my name on it? Because I don't,
I don't have anything written by you, sir.
yeah, I don't.
Okay, but let's try to work through this. On March 17th, you know that Mr. Stillwell was arrested
Yes.
on the Warrant state. That you brought on March 16th.
Yes,
Okay, and he was arrested in Atlanta. He wasn't in another state or anything like that, correct?
correct, yeah,
Okay. And when he was arrested, he was actually still in the white Audi that he had extended the rental for, correct?
yes,
Okay. And the Audi was collected as evidence, correct? Brought to police impound.
that's procedure, yes.
Okay. Are you not aware that crime scene technician Green, do you know who Antoinette Green is? Is she a crime scene technician with APD?
Yes,
Are you aware that she processed that car?
I don't recall for sure. I know I've done several cars with her before, but in this particular case, I don't recall being with her to process the car.
Do you, understood.
This particular car.
Do you recall a headliner was collected in this case, correct? You do know that.
I do not.
You don't know that the headliner of the Audi was collected as evidence in this case and analyzed?
It makes sense that it would be, but I don't
Okay.
recall that, no, sir.
In your experience, your expertise as an investigator, a homicide investigator, a headliner would be a very appropriate piece of the car to collect, to check for gunshot residue.
Again, yes, sir, it makes sense. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
And it should have gunshot residue in it if a gun is fired from within that car, correct?
If it has not been cleaned, yes.
Okay.
Hold on, you hear that? He's being so resistant, and then finally he thinks he has his moment to push back against Schardt by saying, if it hadn't been cleaned, yes. So he finally concedes that it's something they would have searched and expected to find something on. He's pissed. He knows he never found anything on it.
All right. Do you know, as we sit here today, whether or not a GBI analyst tested that headliner for gunshot residue?
Do not.
You don't know what the results are either, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. You took out warrants on March 16th, 2022 at 6:39 PM, correct? For my client as well as Mr. Nichols and Mr. Farley.
Yes, well, 6:40 PM, but yeah.
Okay, 6:40 PM.
On the
And that
16th, yeah.
And that was right after, or shortly after you had that conversation with Investigator Viverito in police headquarters, where she identified the people that were in the BP
That's
video.
correct. Yeah, her,
Okay.
the Sergeant Belknap, yes.
So once you had an identification from the BP, that's when you move forward with the arrest warrants against Mr. Stillwell?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, well, I want to talk to you about your analysis of the FedEx video. You have your report in front of you, correct?
I do?
Okay. At the time that you swore out these warrants against Mr. Stillwell, you had never even viewed that FedEx video, had you?
I don't think I got that till afterwards. I did speak with a representative who described it to me and sent me some still shots.
Okay, and I'm gonna go to page 14, going into 15 of your investigative report.
Okay.
On page 14, going to 15, you write, as of the writing of this report, and this report was written on 3/20/22, correct?
Well, that's when I started it, but yeah.
Okay, so you started this report 4 days after you you obtained the arrest warrants for Mr. Stillwell.
That's correct.
You started this report 4 days after that. Okay.
Yes.
And-
This part, now I had notes and all that stuff, but yeah.
Understood. And you say, as of the writing of this report, the actual video from FedEx has been requested via a subpoena, but has not been received. The above pictures were sent to me by a FedEx corporate officer who told me that he had watched a video which shows that the two white cars pulled up alongside the red Nissan, forming a straight line across the road. And then suddenly, the two white cars sped away against the red light, and the red car stays in place. That's verbatim from your report, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your report is accurate to that fact.
It is, yes.
You, at the time of writing this report, and certainly at the time of bringing out warrants against my client, you had not watched that FedEx video.
No.
But you had spoken to someone at FedEx corporate that sent you some still pictures, correct?
That's correct.
And had told you what they felt they saw on that video, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Who was that FedEx corporate officer who analyzed this FedEx video?
I don't remember.
Do you know that person to have any law enforcement training?
Not familiar with it.
Say it's a
Okay.
friend.
Do you know how many times that person watched that video before giving you his or her conclusions about what the FedEx video contained?
No.
Okay. When did you finally receive the FedEx video?
I don't recall exactly when I got it.
Do you remember what month?
No, I don't remember.
When did you remember when you first watched that FedEx video?
I've seen it several times, but I don't remember when I first saw it, no.
Was it months after bringing out these arrest warrants on Mr. Stillwell?
No, it wasn't months. It was a few days probably.
Well, a few days would have been 4 days afterwards you started writing this report, and you didn't even have the FedEx video then. So could have been longer than a few days before you watched the video?
It could have, yes, it could have been.
Okay. And of course, you brought those warrants on March 16th, 2022, without any gunshot residue results from that white Audi.
That's correct.
You said you saw a car in that video, the FedEx video. Ms. Hilton, could you play the FedEx video for me? Thank you. And it can be 101:20, we can start. I think it's fair to say you saw a car making a U-turn on the video and you saw it was a little odd.
Yes.
It piqued your interest?
Well, it just, yeah, it did. I wouldn't say it piqued my interest. It just went with the situation, I guess.
I think you said you thought on direct, you testified, you thought that the person driving that car may have heard or seen something, correct?
Yes, I did.
And the reason you say that is because that person driving that car abruptly made a U-turn.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm ready when you are. It's not funny.
Oh, I'm sorry. If we could go to 101:20, yeah, just. That's that's the red Versa pulling up, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that would be the white Audi,
Yes.
and that would be the white Fusion pulling up on the right lane, correct?
That's correct.
That's not the car that makes the U-turn, is it?
No, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay. And Mr. Stillwell is now running the light. He's no longer there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We see now this car pulls up and makes that interesting U-turn, correct?
Yes, sir.
And your determination is maybe they did that because they may have seen or heard something, correct?
Maybe.
Okay. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Any Ms. Weinstein?
No, Your Honor.
Redirect?
Let's see this redirect.
I actually want to start right here at the FedEx video.